February 14th, 1876, Valentine's Day, but there was no love lost on this morning at the US Patent Office, as the men's submissions arrived just hours apart. Both described an invention that would change the world, the telephone. One man would be crowned the inventor of the modern age. The other would be lost to history. This is the story of Elisha Gray, the man who might have been remembered as the true inventor of the telephone. Born into a Quaker family in Barnesville, Ohio in 1835, Elisha Gray showed an almost supernatural talent for understanding electricity from his earliest years. As a young boy, he would spend hours creating crude batteries and electrical experiments in his family's barn, much to his mother's concern. When his father died during his childhood, young Elisha became the family's primary breadwinner, working as a carpenter's apprentice. But his mind never strayed far from the mysteries of electricity. By his early 20s, Gray had already established himself as a gifted electrical engineer. He attended Oberlin College, while supporting himself through his mechanical skills, though he never formally graduated. Instead, he chose to pursue his true passion, invention. In 1867, he received his first patent for an improved telegraph relay, marking the beginning of what would become a remarkable career in electrical innovation. Gray soon proved himself to be more than just another tinkerer. He co-founded Gray and Barton, a company that would later evolve into the industrial giant Western Electric. His workshops in Highland Park, Illinois, became a crucible of innovation, where he developed groundbreaking electrical and telegraphic systems. By the early 1870s, he had already secured numerous patents and was considered one of America's leading electrical inventors. But Gray's path was far from easy. In an era when invention was becoming increasingly competitive and cutthroat, he faced constant challenges in developing and protecting his innovations. His most significant breakthrough came with the musical telegraph, a device that could transmit multiple tones over a single wire. This invention, which he demonstrated in 1874, made him one of the first people to transmit musical notes electronically. Yet, even as he worked on perfecting his musical telegraph, Gray was haunted by a greater vision. He had begun to understand that the same principles that allowed his device to transmit musical tones could be adapted to transmit human speech. The challenge was enormous. Converting the complex frequencies of human voice into electrical signals and then reconstructing them at the other end seemed almost impossible. Gray worked tirelessly in his workshop, often staying up through the night, testing different configurations and mechanisms. His family would find him asleep at his workbench, surrounded by wire coils and electrical components. The pressure was immense. He knew others were working on similar ideas, and the race to patent a working telephone was heating up. By early 1876, Gray had developed a liquid transmitter design that he believed could successfully transmit human speech. But he was facing a critical decision, whether to file a patent application or a caveat, a document describing an invention still in development. Time was running out, and he knew others, particularly Alexander Graham Bell, were close to their own breakthroughs. The events of February 14, 1876, would forever change the course of technological history. On that fateful morning, Elisha Gray arrived at the US Patent Office in Washington, D.C. through his attorney to file a caveat for a telephone design using a liquid transmitter. The document was detailed and precise, describing a system that many modern scholars believe was actually superior to Bell's design. But in a twist that would haunt Gray for the rest of his life, Alexander Graham Bell's attorney had arrived at the patent office just hours earlier, filing a patent application for a telephone design. The exact timing of these submissions would later become the subject of intense controversy and legal battles. Gray's design was ingenious. It used a liquid transmitter where sound waves would cause a needle to vibrate in a conducting liquid, creating variations in electrical resistance that would transmit speech. This design was remarkably similar to the one Bell would later use in his first successful telephone demonstration. The revolutionary aspect of Gray's invention wasn't just in its ability to transmit speech, it was in its practical application. His liquid transmitter design was more reliable and produced clearer sound than many early alternatives. He had also developed a sophisticated understanding of how to manipulate electrical resistance to carry complex sound waves, something that would prove crucial to the future development of telephone technology. In his workshop demonstrations, Gray had successfully transmitted recognizable speech sounds. His notebooks and technical drawings from this period reveal a deep understanding of the principles necessary for telephone communication, including concepts that were ahead of their time. The aftermath of February 14th would prove devastating for Gray. When the patent interference proceedings began, questions arose about the timing and handling of the submissions. Patent examiner Zenas Wilbur would later make controversial statements about the events of that day, suggesting impropriety in the handling of Bell's application. Gray's decision to file a caveat rather than a patent application proved fatal to his claim. While a caveat was meant to protect an invention still in development, it didn't carry the same legal weight as a patent application. Bell's team quickly moved to strengthen their patent position, and within weeks, they had incorporated elements remarkably similar to Gray's liquid transmitter design. The legal battles that followed were intense and expensive. Gray found himself outmaneuvered by Bell's superior financial resources and legal team. Despite evidence suggesting that Bell's successful telephone demonstrations used principles from Gray's design, the courts ultimately sided with Bell. The controversy took its toll on Gray. He watched as Bell's telephone monopoly grew into the massive Bell Telephone Company, while his own role in the telephone's invention was increasingly marginalized. The financial and emotional strain was immense, and many of his subsequent inventions, though innovative, never received the recognition they deserved. Perhaps most painfully, Gray had to endure watching history being written with him as a footnote. Newspapers and scientific journals that had once praised his electrical innovations now credited Bell almost exclusively for the telephone's invention. His protests and attempts to set the record straight were largely dismissed or ignored. Today, Elisha Gray's story stands as both a warning and an inspiration. A warning about the fine line between success and obscurity in innovation, and an inspiration in how one person's dedication to discovery can advance human knowledge, even if history doesn't always acknowledge it. Despite being overshadowed in the telephone's history, Gray's impact on electrical innovation was profound. He earned over 70 patents throughout his career, including key innovations in telegraphy, the telautograph, a precursor to the modern fax machine, and underwater cable systems. His work laid crucial groundwork for multiple fields of electrical communication. Modern historians and engineers have increasingly recognized Gray's contributions. His liquid transmitter design is now acknowledged as a crucial development in telephone technology, and some argue it was superior to Bell's original design. The principles he developed for transmitting complex sounds electronically influenced the development of modern telecommunications. Perhaps most importantly, Gray's story reminds us that innovation rarely has a single father. Great inventions often emerge from the collective work of many minds, even if history sometimes simplifies the story to a single name. His persistence in the face of setback, continuing to invent and innovate even after his greatest disappointment, speaks to the true spirit of scientific discovery. As we use our smartphones and take for granted the ability to instantly communicate across the globe, we would do well to remember Elisha Gray. His story teaches us that behind every great invention lies not just the name we remember, but often the forgotten pioneers who helped make it possible. The next time you make a phone call, spare a thought for the brilliant inventor who came so close to being remembered as the telephone's creator. In the end, Elisha Gray's legacy isn't just about a patent lost by a few hours. It's about the enduring power of human ingenuity and the complex nature of innovation itself. If you enjoyed this forgotten story from history's innovation wars, make sure to like and subscribe for more tales of the brilliant minds time forgot. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. Do you think Gray should be remembered alongside Bell in telephone history? And don't forget to hit that notification bell to catch our next episode about another forgotten genius who changed the world.